Dunaway, and today I'm going to be making the dish I made at the State Fair of Texas Celebrity Chef Stage in 2023, and it was called Brown Rice Bowl with Rice Paper Bacon and Herb Aioli. And so, of course, the star of the show is the brown rice dish, and that's what I'm going to be making right now. I have done a separate YouTube video on how to make the rice paper bacon, so you'll have the ability to watch that one. But let's start with the brown rice bowl part, which is just kind of like a rice pilaf. And it starts with, of course, some vegetables. So I'm going to be taking some scallions, celery, and carrots that I've already washed and peeled. And I've got shallots too. So why do we want to have shallots? Well, shallots are kind of like an onion, but they're a little bit milder, and you can see they're smaller in every way. The little, layers of onion or shallot are smaller than an onion, and it has kind of a milder flavor. So I'm just going to use, this is a good size shallot, so I'm going to use one shallot, and I'll show you how I cut all these vegetables up. And once they're all cut up and ready to go, then we'll start actually cooking. But for right now, we'll just get everything cut up, starting with these shallots. Okay. And I cannot see my trash bowl. Can you hand me that trash bowl over there? In that top bowl? Okay, thank you. All right, so I've just kind of cut these into small pieces. My recipe calls for 1/4 of a cup, and that's about right. You want them to be small. And I could say I'm going to set them all on this plate here. And then a couple of ribs of celery. And I like the celery to be cut up kind of small dice because you don't want giant chunks of celery in the food. So I'll just cut it into some planks, and then I'm going to rotate those and cut them into little cubes, small dice. Okay, and I can just rotate them all. And there we go. So there's our celery. Put that on our plate. Same thing with the carrots. These are those really good carrots that you get that still have the green attached to them, which I love because they tend to be really fresh and sweet. Unlike sometimes the carrots you get in the cellophane bags in the grocery store, they just have a kind of an old, even almost a bitter taste to them sometimes. So if you can find the carrots that still have the stems attached, get those. The greens attached, I mean, because they just taste a lot better. Same thing, I just cut them into strips, and then I rotate them and cut them into little cubes. I'll do one more carrot. So you can see this is pretty simple. There's not that many ingredients: carrots, celery, shallots, scallions, brown rice. We're going to add a nutty element to it with some pecans, which is a little bit different, but I think that kind of makes this dish the Texas little twist to it, because, in Texas we have a lot of Texas pecans, so I added that element because it was at the State Fair of Texas. But I actually like it, although I have kind of modified my original recipe and cut down on the amount of pecans, because I started thinking that's a lot of pecans for one recipe. And then I'm going to take the scallions, cut the ends off, cut the green part off. Alright, and so I just like to kind of pile them up. That way it takes a lot less time to cut them all up if they're all piled up. They don't have to be super thin, but you don't want them to be really thick either. These last two little green ones. I like to use the white and the green part of the scallions. I like both parts, not just the white or just the green. I think they're both good. Okay, so here we go. Here's my plate of vegetables. Oh, and I think I also have a couple of garlic cloves to cut up, so let me do that. Let me get the garlic cloves cut up. Yep, I have 2 garlic cloves. Cut the ends. Then once you've done the ends, the peel comes off a lot easier when you cut off the very hard end part of the garlic. Put some weight on it. These are kind of hard garlic cloves. These must be those jumbo ones. I'm growing lots of different ones. Some of them are harder than others. Okay, there we go. That's good. That one was a little stubborn. All right, so I'm just going to chop up the garlic. No, I don't use a garlic press or a garlic chopper or anything. I find it's just easy to chop up garlic with my knife. It's not that hard. But if you want to use a garlic press or some kind of garlic chopper or whatever you have, go ahead. People always ask me if they should, if they could use a jar of garlic, like already chopped up garlic that you buy ready to go. And you can, but I always find it doesn't taste as fresh. You know, once that garlic has been peeled and chopped, it starts aging. So, you know, to me it's better to go ahead and use a fresh garlic. Okay, so I've got all my vegetables ready. The next step is going to be combining this in a skillet and then cooking the rice. All right, so I'm ready to start cooking these vegetables. I've set the scallions aside because those don't really get cooked. They're added at the end, and I'm just going to take all of these vegetables and put them in my hot skillet. And you can hear it sizzling, which means it's got the right temperature, because you don't want to cook without oil in a cold pan. It will never work. So I like to start by cooking in a hot pan, and then once I know the vegetables are getting some color on them, which, you know, that will take a couple of minutes for them to cook, they'll start releasing their water. And then once they start releasing their water, if they start sticking to the pan a little and getting a little dry, then I'll add some water. And I won't add that much water. We're talking like a couple of tablespoons. And then my other trick to cooking vegetables and getting them to the point where they're not bitter and they don't have that raw taste, which sometimes you get when you're cooking without oil. That's kind of the complaint that people have about oil-free cooking sometimes, is they say, well, the vegetables didn't taste like they used to, whatever. Well, it's usually because they didn't cook them long enough. So one of the things I like to do is I put the lid on the vegetables as I cook them on them. But I see now that it's getting kind of to the point where I could add a little bit of water and then get the lid on. So I'm going to just grab a couple of tablespoons of water. And we could even go a little bit longer, but I see where they're starting to brown a little bit, and that's good. So I'm going to go ahead and put my little bit of water in here. And then I can put the lid on and let it cook for like 5 minutes, and that will really soften everything. So 5 minutes, and then we'll start adding the rice. All right, so I've got the vegetables. They've cooked for about 5 minutes. I can tell they're ready because they're nice and soft. I'm going to add my 2 cups of cooked brown rice. And remember, I cooked it pasta style, so it's not all sticky, but it is done all the way through. It's like you cook it in lots of water. I'll include the recipe, but cook it in lots of water like you cook pasta, and then when it's done, you drain it and let it steam for a minute, and it's perfect. Now I'm going to add my tablespoon of low sodium soy sauce, tablespoon of tahini, which gives it just that little bit of richness. You can leave it out if you don't want to add tahini. And then a tablespoon of lemon juice for a little brightness. And then you just have to mix all those things together. And one thing that I love about this dish that's different is because it's got pecans in it. So we'll add put a little pepper in it. Does it need salt? Well, you know, we could put a pinch in there. This is kosher salt, kind of a reduced sodium variety, so I try not to put a lot of salt in the food. You don't even have to add salt. You can cook it without salt. So I've got my pecans, and what I've done is I've taken some good Texas pecans and I've toasted them in the oven at 350 for about 5 minutes. And what that does is that gives them that kind of brings out their flavor. And I'm just going to add about a half a cup, which is, I'm just going to kind of guess, but it's a little over a handful for me. And so what that crunchy pecan does is it gives it just such a nutty, delicious flavor. And I'm just going to let this cook for a couple more minutes and then I'll plate it all up. Okay, now here comes the best part. Time to plate it up and eat some. So I'm going to take some of this brown rice with the pecans, the toasted pecans, and all the good vegetables and the lemon juice. And remember our rice paper bacon. I've got some cut up, so I can put that on here, generous amount. And then I have some scallions. Remember I cut those up early on. They add a little nice touch. Little cilantro, not much. And remember I told you I had Herb Aioli. You'll have the recipe in the show notes. So I'll put a little of this Herb Aioli on there. And last but not least, I love these little candied jalapeno peppers. They're pretty, they have a nice sweet and very spicy flavor, and they make everything look good and taste good. And then all that's left to do is to take a bite and enjoy it. Wow. That is such an explosion of flavors. Everything from spicy to nutty, with the brown rice and the vegetables. It's bright and delicious. So I hope you make this dish. Brown rice bowl with rice paper bacon and Herb Aioli. I know you'll love it. It goes really good with bean dishes and lentil dishes. I've brought this dish to a book club meeting and everybody tasted it and loved it. So I hope you make it, and please subscribe to my channel so you can see all my videos. They're all whole food, plant-based, no oil. And thank you for watching. See you soon. Bye-bye.